War against the mold of umbrella was a 7 is war nada within an umbrella mutation. It is destroy their cousin bioweapons, yet Las Plagas and the Megamycete thrived. Who pathogens shaped the bio-born in the arms race same labs, or the devoured flesh, the other devoured cities, both were blueprints. The connections did not sabotage umbrellas, research these stole it. Every strike against the corporation was a heist, genetic espionage masked as resistance. The mold of Re-7 is not a mutation, it is a cousin. A shadow strain cultivated in the wreckage of their war, shaped the bio-born in the arms race, the enemy, or the devoured flesh enemy's hand. The Connections War began in Ash, 2002, burning labs, charred blueprints. They claimed to dismantle Umbrella's bioweapons, but their agents salvaged what they destroyed. Needles of G-virus, progenitor strains, raccoons' genetic wreckage all funneled into silent harvests. A shadow war within the war. Virus every BOW curators. When every victory deepens the stranglehold, they did not oppose the bioarms race, they scripted its next act. A future where no corporation, no state, holds the key, only the quiet archivists in the dark, who now wait for the world to catch up to their designs. Umbrella's labs sprawled from Southeast Asia to Eastern Europe by 1997. Their vectors, not just pathogens, blueprints. The Connections emerged in 2002, a coalition of defectors and mercenaries sworn to dismantle bioterrorism. Yet their raids on Umbrella facilities yielded more than destruction. Samples were cataloged, data was siphoned, every anti-terror operation doubled as a harvest. Their agents trained to mimic corporate sabotage extracted genetic anomalies BOW prototypes, mutated strains classifying them as assets, not threats. The mission statement, publicly righteous, masked a colder calculus. Umbrella's chaos was a forge. The Connections War was not to stop bioweapons. It was to outmaneuver the architects, to claim their legacy before it collapsed. They buried evidence of their own thefts, framing rogue scientists, laundering data through shell nations. By 2003, their vaults held more of Umbrella's future than its ruins did. A shadow war, not against the corporation, but within it. Who then shaped the outbreak's true trajectory, the puppet or the hand that guided the string? The mold's containment logs in Resident Evil 7 detail sterile labs, sealed chambers, and biohazard tags, but follow the waste streams. Follow the vial shipments coded Project Blue, what containment requires extraction, what quarantine demands trade. The Beneviento bloodline in Village bred under duress, their genetics weaponized not by Umbrella, but by the Connections shadow brokers who funded, then buried, the research. They framed Raccoon's collapse as corporate negligence. They sold Las Plagas as a regional plague. Yet their own archives whisper of symbiotic vectors and ancestral adaptability. The mold, the parasite, the blood, each a thread in a loom they did not build. The Connections did not oppose Umbrella. They inherited its hunger, refined its methods, and turned every outbreak into a ledger of living assets. A faction that fought Umbrella, a myth. They were the architects of its fall, harvesting its failures to fuel their own. The mold's spores, the cradle's experiments both served a quieter war, not to destroy bioweapons, but to catalog, categorize, and claim them. What does a shadow war demand? Not bombs, but bloodlines, not sabotage, but samples. The Connections' containment protocols were doors. Behind them, a vault of genetic blueprints, human, fungal, viral, waiting for the right hand to unlock them, which force truly sowed the seeds of chaos. The puppet or the hand that guided the string. The Baker house rots in silence. A mother's scream echoes through its walls, not from madness but from knowing. Mia's infection was no accident, it was a harvest. The Connections field reports, buried beneath anti-Umbrella rhetoric, cataloged the family as G-virus vectors. Their horror was not a side effect, it was the objective. Consider the irony. While the world saw the Connections as rebels, they cultivated Umbrella's failures like seeds in a greenhouse. The Bakers, trapped in their derelict home, were not victims of a bioweapon, they were the weapon. Every twisted mutation, every act of violence was a data point, a genetic Rosetta Stone. The Connections did not fight corporate tyranny, they curated it. The Baker girl's final act, their descent into feral rage, was staged to appear chaotic, yet her body's collapse followed precise parameters, a controlled collapse. Her DNA, spliced with G-virus, became a blueprint. The Connection's resistance was a vault, not a rebellion. They locked Umbrella's horrors away to unlock them later. What of the others? The families erased, the left to rot in remote towns. Each was a node in a map only the Connections could read. Their war against Umbrella was a masquerade, a shadow war to claim its crown. The Bakers were the first. Their suffering was the prototype. The files whisper of a deeper purpose, a lineage weaponized, not destroyed. The Connections did not expose Umbrella's sins, they weaponized them. And when the final lock clicks, the question is no longer who pulled the string, but who was always holding the puppet. Wesker's Ouroboros thesis did not merely seek to break humanity's code, it sought to rewrite it. Fungal networks, mycelial lattices, the Connections studied them not as curiosities, but as blueprints. A silent war raged beneath the ruins of Raccoon City. Every explosive charge placed by anti-Umbrella saboteurs masked a deeper excavation. They were not destroying data, they were harvesting it. The Connections' fungal research files, recovered fragments, hint at a chilling truth. Their obsession with symbiosis mirrored Wesker's own, not coincidence, convergence. They understood what he did. Evolution is not a line, it is a lattice. A web of possibilities, each spore a potential branch, each hybrid a new vector. What if the anti-Umbrella crusade was a performance? A masquerade to siphon bioweapon blueprints while feeding the beast just enough scraps to keep it bloated and blind. They let G-virus samples leak. They allowed Ada's diversions. Why? To watch how the pieces mutated, how the players adapted. The puppeteers never needed to expose themselves. They wove their threads through every faction, every betrayal, every alliance. The real war was not against Umbrella, it was within it. A cold calculus of genetic potential, and in the quiet spaces between their experiments, a question festers. If both Wesker and the Connections sought the same end, why did they dance as enemies? Or was the performance always meant to end this way? With the curtain rising on the true architects. They called themselves liberators, they called themselves anti-terror, yet their covert operations in Resident Evil 7 and Village reeked of something darker. A faction that claims to dismantle bioweapon programs, does not hoard genetic blueprints, does not smuggle mutagen samples from derelict labs, does not fund cults to guard Umbrella's own forbidden research. The Connections' war was never against terror, it was a harvest. A quiet theft of the very horrors they pretended to destroy. Every raid, every cleanup a transaction masked as resistance. They danced as enemies while threading Umbrella's legacy into their own. Who benefits when a corporation's downfall becomes a shadow empire's foundation? The records are silent. The survivors are fewer, but the pattern is there. A puppeteer's hand in every catastrophe they claim to prevent. What else have they buried beneath the noise of their war? The Connections moved like shadows through Umbrella's ruins. In the forest that birthed Las Plagas, in the derelict hotel where Megamycete coiled, they did not destroy. They gathered, precision of a surgeon, not a saboteur. Their blades harvested pathogen and spore, not to kill but to refine. Umbrella's own research had seeded the soil. Las Plagas, a parasite evolved in their labs. Megamycete, a fungal network weaponized for silent conquest. The Connections knew these were not endpoints, they were components. A war framed as liberation was a vault. Every covert operation, every explosive charge masked a deeper theft. They mapped fungal networks, traced symbiotic bonds between parasite and host. What Umbrella built to corrupt, they repurposed to command. The question is not why they stole. It is how far they've gone. Fungal spores do not die, they wait. The Connections' labs, hidden beneath the noise of their rebellion, bred new alliances. Las Plagas no longer jumps from insect to human, it learns. Megamycete no longer spreads by rot, it chooses . A weapon not of decay but fusion biology and mycelium, bound to consume or coexist. The puppeteers did not oppose Umbrella. They inherited its dream and made it worse. The war is over, the harvest continues. What grows when the fungus and the parasite share a single root? The Connections have buried their answer in every infected cell, every spore that falls. The world breathes, the world is no longer whole. The connections moved like ghosts through the ash of their own war. They called it resistance. It was a harvest. Every mission, every bullet spent on Umbrella's doorstep. What were they truly hunting? Genetic blueprints, spores, tissue samples, the very seeds of infection they claimed to destroy. Did they seek to end the plague or perfect it? Their labs, hidden in the ruins of what they fought to dismantle, hummed with stolen life. They spoke of liberation while threading the DNA of monsters into their own code. What kind of weapon demands both victim and architect? A deeper war was sown in the silence between their victories. The connections did not merely fight. Umbrellathy inherited its hunger. They wore the mask of, but beneath it, the same hands reached for the same power. How many lives were traded on the altar of their grand design, the infected soil of Las Plagas, the hollow eyes of those they rescued? Every act of mercy a needle, every funeral a data point. And when the spores settled, when the world held its breath, what did they plant in the cracks of the old order? Not hope, not redemption. A new root, one that would not wither, one that would remember. The connections did not fall. They became the shadow in every gene, every whispered fear. The war was never against Umbrella, it was a rehearsal. For a future where the world itself was theirs to rewrite. Ada's gloved hands never trembled, not when she extracted progenitor samples from Umbrella ruins, not when she sold secrets to the highest bidder. Yet her pulse must have quickened each time she fed the Connections' war. Their bombs shattered labs, their reports painted Umbrella as monsters. But what of the vials hidden in those explosions' smoke, the ones she delivered, labeled not for destruction but preservation? The Connections crusaded against tyranny. Or did they curate it? Every strike against Umbrella's empire was a harvest of data, of DNA, of dormant potentials. Ada's loyalty was a mask. Behind it, a symphony of stolen genes, composing a future where the Connections didn't just replace their puppet masters, they became the architects. The question isn't what they took, it's what they are waiting to make. Pressure test this: was Ada Wong's war a rebellion or the first draft of a new creation? The Connections did not oppose Umbrella, they weaponized its collapse. Wesker's Ouroboros the CISA map for their fungal symbiosis experiments. Every anti-Umbrella campaign masked genetic espionage. Each bioweapon a seed, each raid a graft. Ada's war, a script for a new order. What if the enemy